Welcome to MissouriNet.com. I'm Bill Pollock, along with Bill Scott from Wisconsin Radio Network. Twice now we have had teams go up to Green Bay, and twice we've come back with our tails tucked in between our legs. First the Chiefs, and now the Rams on Sunday, although I think the Rams put up a better fight and had Nick Foles not been picked off 4 times. Rams might have been coming out of there with a victory. But still, Packers find ways to win 24-10. Bill, you cover the Packers on a daily basis. You know this team very well. What was your takeaway from the game?
Well, again, for the second week in a row, the Packers defense, really saved them. They won a game in San Francisco when the offense didn't play very well a week ago, and now they win at home on Sunday when the offense didn't play very well. Aaron Rodgers throwing an interception for and obviously he throws 2, plus he loses a fumble, but he threw a pick at home for the first time since December of 2012. So, that streak, even though a good one, had been talked about on a weekly basis. So maybe it's good that the streak is finally over. But I think the take out of Green Bay for Packers fans and for the Packers in general is the defense used to be the ugly stepchild. And for years, Rodgers would have to score 30, 35 points to win big football games, and the defense wasn't doing anything to pull up its end of the bargain. And now they're doing that. I think, it's only 5 games in, but I think at this point in time, Packers fans and the Packers in general are pretty excited about the fact that their defense is playing at such a high level that they think this is a championship caliber football team. If you can win when Rodgers and company offensively aren't doing the job, the defense can save the day, and they saved it against a couple of pretty good football teams.
The injury to Jordy Nelson, I thought was going to be a big blow, and now we've seen a couple of weeks where the Rams have struggled. Is that where the Packers have struggled? Is that starting to catch up with them, or is this offense still in pretty good shape?
Well, I'm sure it's still going to be in decent shape, but it has caught up with them in the last couple of weeks. Not only Jordy Nelson, but Davante Adams, who was projected to be their third receiver to start the season. He's missed a couple of games and been hampered by a bad ankle injury, and we're not even sure he's going to play this week against San Diego. So that has definitely slowed the Packers down. I thought the Rams had a definite defensive scheme. They were shading the help towards Randall Cobb and to James Jones for that matter. And they're basically telling the young guys, Ty Montgomery and tight end Richard Rodgers, that if the Packers are going to beat us through the air, those are the guys that are going to have single coverage, and those are the guys that are going to have to beat us. And, we saw the numbers. Neither one of those guys, Montgomery shook free on a blown coverage and scored a wide open touchdown early in the football game. But neither one of those guys really had huge games. And, of course, the other two didn't have big games at all. James Jones scored a 65-yard touchdown catch, but that was really one individual play. I thought the Rams bottled up the Packers passing game pretty good. The one thing the Rams have going, though, you see, not every team can do that, though. The Rams have, arguably the best front 4 in football, or pretty close to it, on defense. So you don't need to blitz. You can pressure with those 4 guys, and then you can drop everybody else back into coverage, and that poses problems for opposing offenses. And I think that's where the Packers got into trouble.
Well, Chris Long has an injury. Alec Ogletree, they lost him last week, their big linebacker. So now some injuries starting to mount up on that defensive side of the ball. We're talking with Bill Scott from Wisconsin Radio Network. Bill, you've seen the Chiefs and the Rams up close. Either one of those teams at all a playoff contender?
Well, I think the Rams are a playoff contender. I still think, their defense is really good. I think Todd Gurley showed for a second week in a row that he's the real deal and is going to be a really special player. This guy, he doesn't go down. If you hit him at the line of scrimmage, he's going to find a way to get 2 more yards. He breaks tackles or he plows the pile forward a couple of yards. And not to mention he has really some special, play-breaking ability on top of that. He reminds me of some of the backs that the Rams have had in years past, and maybe even better. So I like St. Louis. I think Jeff Fisher is a great football coach. I don't know what they think of him in St. Louis, but I love the guy. I think he's one of the best coaches in football. I think the Rams, even though they're in, a fairly solid division, I think the Rams are playoff contenders. I think the Chiefs are not a playoff contender. I'm not impressed with what they're doing over there. Offensively, defensively, they don't appear to have a ton of weapons on offense. So I don't think the Chiefs are a playoff contender, but I think the Rams are.
Just to get your thoughts, I mean, you're a big NFL guy. Is Andy Reid, is his offensive philosophy or his play calling, has the times kind of passed him by, or what's? I mean, I'm watching that game yesterday with the Bears, and I had the Rams and the Packers on. I'm flipping back and forth, and I'm looking at the Bears, who have they're down to their third, fourth, and fifth string wide receivers. They've got a defense that's kind of in disarray, but middle of that game, you've got Alex Smith, the quarterback. You've got Jamal Charles, arguably the best all-around running back, or at least the top three in the NFL. You've got Jeremy Maclin, Travis Kelce, who you can get the ball to. You've got all these weapons, and they can't get in the end zone consistently. They can't move the ball consistently. Is that on Andy Reid? Is that on a poor offensive line? I'm wondering if the game is starting to pass Reid by in his philosophy. But I wanted to talk with you, somebody that kind of follows.
Well, and Reid obviously got his start in Green Bay here, and then has made a couple of stops along the way before reaching Kansas City. I would agree with you. I think the offensive line needs an upgrade in Kansas City. I think that's primarily where they probably have to start. I'm not totally sold on Alex Smith as being a guy that can take you all the way. I mean, they think that Alex Smith can be the guy that takes him all the way. I don't necessarily agree with that. They do have what would appear to be enough talent. I think they could use even more at the wide receiver position. In my opinion, when the Packers play there, I think they really have one outstanding wide receiver threat. They have good tight ends and good running backs. But I also think that I almost fell asleep watching the Chiefs offense. I mean, it's boring. Chiefs fans have got to be, up in arms with what they see offensively from Kansas City. And the way they do it, you got to string it together a lot of plays to score points. And you know what happens when you have to come up with a lot of plays, eventually a mistake hits you. And to me, that happens to the Chiefs far too often. If they were a little bit more dynamic and explosive in the play calling, I think they'd be a better football team.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. That's kind of what I think. Actually, I think a lot of Chiefs fans are kind of feeling the same way. Let's change the topic here a little bit, because I watched this debacle by the Chiefs yesterday where they let Jay Cutler back into this game, 17-3. Chiefs are up. They're in control. Then Jamal Charles gets hurt, and he was like, just everything switched and looked like a repeat of what happened in week 2 with the Denver Broncos. But all but 4 games were decided by a touchdown or less. Is this exciting football, or is this a problem for the NFL in that because of the salary cap and because of so many teams and so many players and injuries that are involved, that the games are so watered down that there aren't teams that are rising their head above the rest? I mean, you've got Green Bay and you've got New England, and Cincinnati's off to a good start, and you have your undefeated teams at this point. But all of these games, though, teams can't put other teams away. Is that good or bad?
Well, I think that's a good thing in terms of spectator participation. I love, if you're one of those teams that's on the other end and they're able, and they don't have much promise for the season, and yet they're able to hang in and maybe beat a team or maybe take a team to the wire. I think that's far more exciting for the league than having, up until the last 2 weeks. I mean, teams that come into Lambeau Field, Green Bay has got a 28-point lead by halftime, and we're yawning our way through the second half. I mean, if you're at home, you can get up and go do something else. But when you're at the stadium, you got to watch bad football. And I think there's a lot of bad football in the NFL. I mean, I think you have your 4 or 5 teams, 6 teams that are upper echelon, top-notch teams. I think there's just a couple in the middle, and I think there's a lot of, like over half the league, is mediocre football teams, most of which won't make the playoffs, and some of those that don't deserve to be there under what you would think would be a playoff type format. So, it's a horse apiece, but I do think that the talent is very watered down. I mean, not every team even has a good starting quarterback.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's how watered down it is.
Yeah, I know. I mean, wouldn't it be better if you took, and it's not going to happen because it's all about greed and it's all about money, but would it be great if there were 16 teams and you've got Brady and Rodgers maybe meeting up against each other, or Peyton and Brady meeting up maybe 3 times a season. I mean, it just to me, it's just I'm watching these games, and it's one thing to be close, but it's another to have things have the balance of a game switch because of bad mistakes or bad plays or blown assignments, and it's you watch, it's like, oh, good grief, what's happening now? I mean, I'm watching the Bears come back and they take the lead. They kick off, and then there's a 15-yard face mask on the kickoff return. So now the Chiefs have great field position. One pass, and here you are in the final 27 seconds, and with the exception of a bobble by Jeremy Maclin, the Chiefs were in position for a field goal less than 55 yards to win this thing, and it's all based off of just poor technique or grabbing somebody's face mask. I mean, it's frustrating sometimes to watch this.
Yeah, it is. You said 16. Even if they knocked it to 24 teams, the problem is the NFL wants to expand. They want a team in Europe.
Yeah, I know.
Potentially in Mexico. I mean, you already have a watered down product. Why make it worse? Because it will only get worse. Trust me. There'll be even more bad football that's being played out there in the National Football League. And I understand about the teams and the mistakes, and up until this year, the Packers special teams has been horrible over the last 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot of bad football being played out there, and it's supposed to be, according to everything you read and hear, it's supposed to be the best league in terms of fan participation and viewership and all that kind of stuff. The NFL is supposed to be the best thing going, but for the label that it gets, I'm not seeing exactly. I'm not as excited about that label as what a lot of other people are. I think there's a good chance you're going to turn a football game on like last night, having to watch San Francisco play on Sunday. I mean, San Francisco's played a couple of times already on late night football. They got the opener against the Vikings. I mean, San Francisco's not a real good football team right now, but that's what you're forced to watch on Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football. It's not that good anymore.
No, and I wonder at some point, does that bubble burst? Because you kind of expect it with college football. There's a lot of action, a lot of scoring. Does that NFL bubble burst anytime soon, or are people just going to keep eating this stuff up?
I don't see an end anytime soon for the average fan. They love their football and they love their pro football, and it's probably going to last a while. But the only thing that's going to stop it, Bill, is for not you and I. I mean, certainly if we talked about it less, then they wouldn't get it as much. But somebody else will just step in our shoes and talk about it, and they'll find their appetite fed in some other area. But the only way it's going to slow down is if the fans themselves say, we're sick of paying the high prices for what we're seeing on the field, so we're going to back away. We're not going to buy your jerseys. We're not going to buy your hats and coats and T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And we're not going to go to the game and pay the ridiculous prices until you improve the product on the field. And I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, it'll be interesting. Be interesting to see what happens. It might happen soon here in Kansas City, though. I think people are having their fill already with this team, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it all plays out. So, Bill Scott from Wisconsin Radio Network. What do you got there? UW Oshkosh.
Oshkosh baseball? Yeah, it's they used to be a college Division III power, and now they're just average. But it's a school. It's the school my son goes to. So I'm flying the colors here this morning.
There you go. Very nice. All right. Well, hey, real quick, your thoughts on the National League Division Series, Cubs and Cardinals. Couple division rivals for Milwaukee.
Well, you and I are Cubs fans, and in Missouri, you're in the minority. I've already figured that. Heck, in your own office, you're in the vastly in the minority. But we love the Cubs. I think the Cubs are the hottest team in baseball right now, or one of the hottest. I mean, I think they surpassed down the stretch, even surpassed the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals, had 100 wins, and the Cubs. I mean, just think the National League Central Division with a team with 100, a team with 98, a team with 97 wins. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible. But Cardinals are a good baseball team, but I think the Cubs are hotter. I think Tide going back home to Wrigley. This one is still probably. I mean, the cardiac Cardinals. I mean, this one's probably still up in the air because St. Louis may find a way to win one of those two at Wrigley Field.
And never count them out. Never count them out. It could be Cubs and Astros, the way the Astros are playing too.
Wouldn't that be something? The two teams that had undergone the biggest reclamation projects, renovations, whatever you want to call it, the term. I mean, they bared the cupboards. Astros did so probably a little bit more than the Cubs, but they both bared the cupboards and are both ahead of schedule and two of the hotter teams in baseball right now.
Yep. Oh, all right. Well, hey, we got the Royals and the Cardinals. Yeah, all right. Chiefs and Rams lost, but man, we're still hanging on here for the Royals and Cardinals in this state. So they're our only hope. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long, October and November for sure.
Show me state, so you got to have something to fall back on, right?
Show me something. Show me anything at this point. That's what it should be. All right, Bill Scott from Wisconsin Radio Network joining us. Thanks for watching us here at MissouriNet.com as well.